Hi, everyone. Welcome to Little English Podcast, your cozy space to learn English in a simple and relaxing way. I'm so happy you're here. Take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's improve your English together, one small step at a time. Have you ever tried to speak English, but your mind just suddenly freezes? Not because you don't know the words, not because you haven't studied enough, but because before you say anything, you start translating everything in your head. You think in your native language first, then you try to convert it into English, word by word, sentence by sentence. And by the time you're ready to speak, the moment is already gone. You hesitate, you feel slow, and sometimes you decide it's just easier not to say anything at all. If this feels familiar, you're not alone. Almost every English learner goes through this stage. But here's something important you need to understand. Translating in your head is one of the biggest reasons you can't speak English fluently. Your brain has been trained your whole life to think in your first language. It's fast. It's automatic. It feels natural. So when you try to speak English, your brain doesn't immediately switch. Instead, it follows a longer process. First, you think in your native language, then you translate into English, then you check the grammar, and only after that you try to speak. That extra process creates a delay, and that delay is what makes you feel stuck. But this is not your fault. You didn't create this problem. You were trained this way. Most people learn English through vocabulary lists, grammar rules, and translation exercises. So your brain learns that English is something you must convert, something separate from your natural thinking. Instead of learning English as a tool for communication, you learn it as a system to analyze. At first, translating feels helpful. It gives you a sense of control. It makes you feel like you understand what you're doing. But over time, it becomes a habit that slows you down. Real conversations don't wait for you to translate. People speak quickly. They react instantly. If your brain is always translating, you will always be one step behind. And that's where frustration starts. You might also notice that when you translate, your sentences don't sound natural. That's because languages are not direct copies of each other. The structure, the rhythm, even the way ideas are expressed can be completely different. So when you translate word by word, your sentences carry the structure of your first language, not English. And then comes the fear. You start questioning everything before you speak. You wonder if your grammar is correct. You worry about using the wrong word. You overthink simple sentences. And that fear makes you hesitate even more. So the real problem is not that your English is bad. The real problem is that your thinking process is slowing you down. And this is where the shift needs to happen. You don't need to translate better. You need to stop translating altogether. Instead of converting your thoughts, you need to start building the ability to think directly in English. And that might sound difficult at first, especially if you feel like your English is not strong enough. But the truth is, you don't need perfect English to start thinking in English. You just need to start small. Your brain doesn't need complex sentences in the beginning. It needs simple, repeatable patterns. You can start with very basic thoughts. I am tired. This is good. I need water. These are simple, but they are powerful. Because you are training your brain to connect meaning directly to English without going through another language. Another helpful way to break the translation habit is to use images instead of words. When you see an object, don't name it in your native language first. Try to connect it directly to the English word. If you see a chair, don't think of the translation. Just think chair. If you see a dog, think dog. This helps your brain build a direct connection instead of a translated one. Speaking out loud is also extremely important. Even if you're alone, even if you feel awkward, it works. Describe what you're doing. Describe what you see. Describe how you feel. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. You might say, I am sitting. I am drinking coffee. The weather is hot. These sentences are simple, but they train your brain to produce English faster without overthinking. Another key shift is to learn phrases instead of individual words. When you learn words separately, your brain has to build sentences from scratch every time. But when you learn phrases, your brain starts recognizing patterns. For example, instead of learning take and care separately, learn take care as one unit. This reduces thinking time and helps you speak more naturally. You also need to change the way you think about mistakes. Right now, you might be trying to avoid mistakes as much as possible, but that mindset is actually slowing you down. Fluency is not about being perfect. It's about being able to express your ideas smoothly, even if they're not 100% correct. If you wait until your sentences are perfect before you speak, you will always hesitate. But if you allow yourself to speak imperfectly, you create momentum. And that momentum is what leads to fluency. So, yes, you will make mistakes. You will say things wrong. You will feel uncomfortable at times. But that discomfort is part of the process. It means your brain is learning something new. Over time, as you continue practicing, something interesting starts to happen. You begin to think less about the language itself and more about what you want to say. Your sentences come out faster, your reactions become more natural, and the need to translate slowly disappears. If you want to make this progress real, you need consistency. Not long hours, not perfect study plans, just small daily practice. Spend a few minutes each day thinking in English, just simple thoughts. Spend a few minutes speaking, even if it's just to yourself, and spend some time listening to simple English content so your brain gets used to the rhythm of the language. You don't need to rush. You don't need to compare yourself to others. Language learning is not about speed. It's about building a new way of thinking. And once that shift happens, everything changes. You stop translating. You stop overthinking every sentence. You stop feeling stuck. And you start speaking naturally, smoothly, confidently. So if you've been struggling with English, if you've been feeling like you're not improving, maybe the problem is not your vocabulary, not your grammar, not your effort. Maybe the real problem is that you've been translating this whole time, and now it's time to let that go. Start small, be patient with yourself, and most importantly, trust the process, because the moment you stop translating is the moment you truly start using the language. If this message helped you, take a small step today. Try thinking in English for just a few minutes. It might feel strange at first, but that's how every real change begins. Thanks for spending time with me today. I hope this episode made your English learning a little easier and more enjoyable. If you like this podcast, don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss the next episode. See you again soon and keep going. You're doing great.